Hello and welcome to another edition of Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rassa. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. I would appreciate it if you would like this video, and if you like them, share them. I just finished my last video a second ago about making a key in Building 63. I've titled it the USP Leavenworth Lockdown Stories, and this will be another one of those. Actually, it's about Building 63. Maybe I should have left that. Whatever. Okay. Once again, Building 63, one of the oldest special housing units in the United States Penitentiary in Leavenworth, Kansas. In the summer of 2002, members of the Dirty White Boys, including myself and affiliates, were sent from the special housing unit into Building 63. The Birdman of Alcatraz, who was really the Birdman of Leavenworth, was allegedly stayed in Building 63 for X amount of years. And I said in the previous video, we were upset about going, that is me and my bros, were upset about going into Building 63 because we were told it was originally intended for PC cases, and we were not on PC status. So that set the tone for how we would act for the next several months until we were eventually sent back to the SHU and then transferred. In these cells, there was 3 bunk beds. It can hold 6 men. We tried to stay with just 4 guys per cell, and there was 12 Dirty White Boys, I guess. So there's 3 cells of us. It was super hot in Building 63. Temperatures were over 100 degrees a lot of times. These are brick buildings. It holds heat. Miserable. No air conditioning. They had big fans that just swirled hot air around. Non-stop sweat. You get a little bit of relief in the morning hours when it was cool, and the bricks would cool off, and then it was just back on and popping and hot all day. And we were working out in there too, and that we were working out 4 or 5 deep if there was a 5th person in the cell, and we can all do this on the floor. We did burpees and push-ups and all that stuff. We made heavy bags. We made heavy bags, as in boxing heavy bags that you hit. We had hammocks that we made out of laundry bag nets in the cells. We made wine constantly, and we took drugs. That usually it was Neurontin and baclofen, or gabapentin and baclofen, whatever it was. That is nerve relaxers and muscle relaxers mixed together. Took 15 of each, and we went on a magic carpet ride that we were just crazy. Well, I've already told you about throwing feces on C.O. Reed. High drunk that night. Told you about beating up Cub. High drunk that night. Or drunk that night. Beating up Sean. Drunk that night. Making a key on everything. And so have I talked about anything else? So this one will be about the flood in Building 63. As I've said, these were cinder block / red brick with red brick. So the side walls were cinder block for sure. I think the outside of the building was red brick. It's been a minute. We had brothers next door. We'd actually chipped a cinder block so we can pass stuff, talk through. We were going to make one so we can all walk back and forth and get in and out. We never did. For the purpose of the story, we're glad we never did. People often flood in special housing units. It's because they're bored. They want attention. We used to do it in the SHU because we wanted drugs. So if we found out that somebody had come in with the package that is drug keistered, and we were trying to get some and the orderlies weren't out, we'd flood the tier, which would cause the orderlies to come out, which means that the orderly can go get our dope. There's stories I got to do about that next, as a matter of fact, because there's some real good ones with me and Dusty and those. So flooding's common. If you're not involved in actually causing the flood, it can be really, really miserable because you're just laying there or sitting there, or you have stuff on the floor, and then all of a sudden somebody's flooding, and then everything's completely wet in your cell. You just drowned it out. It's crazy. Well, the front door was not solid. It was bars with mesh on it. And we decided not to flood, but it was so hot that we wanted to go swimming. Swimming. There's a toilet, there's sinks, and there's a shower in those cells. It is really, really loud, so staff couldn't hear us flush toilets or water running. You know, in the special housing unit, if you're, you can kind of get the idea that somebody might be flooding if you're staff and you hear this. Some of the toilets now you can't flood anymore. Back then we had just nonstop. So it was nighttime. We were all geeked out on these pills, I believe, maybe some wine, don't remember. And we decided that we were going to turn the cell, which was huge, into a swimming pool so we can all go swimming. Now, the bunks are, you know, that high from the ground. So we didn't want to do anything more than that. We just wanted to sit in cool water. We had plastic trash bags. So first we sealed off the area where the center block come out to the other cell. That was a success. And then we had to figure out what to do with the door. James White came up with the idea of taking books, getting trash bags, and using the books to jam the trash bags so the trash bag would create a barrier so water couldn't seep out of the bar / mesh bars, whatever. And that's what we did. And let me tell you something. We started flushing, and we probably flushed and ran water, I would say about almost 2 hours. It was a while. Whoever was working that night, I forgot the officer. I don't know if it was Reed, wasn't really doing rounds, or if they were, they really weren't paying attention. It's really, really loud in 63, or it was then. All the cells in the bottom were full, the fans blowing. You'd have to really stop and look and pay attention, and they did not. So this was before the 9 o'clock count or 10 o'clock count. And we let this water fill up. And let me tell you, I was on the bottom bunk in the back. So the water mostly went back there. I took all my stuff off the bottom and I put it up on top because I wanted them to keep filling up the room. And we got this cell filled with water that covered the top bunks and probably went up, I'm going to say, if you stand up at the door, not quite waist high, but kind of, let's say if you're 6 foot tall, it would come probably like to the bottom of your butt. That's how much water we got in this cell. We had a swimming pool in this cell. We played Marco Polo in the dark in this cell. That's how big it was. And we were swimming under the bunks like this. You know, of course it wasn't, you know, it was deep enough to where we can submerge and swim. Absolutely. But we started playing Marco Polo as a joke, not very long and not seriously. But we were all swimming in this cell. That's how much water. And then came the 10 o'clock count. It was Reed again. It was C.O. Reed and Fontenoy. I think the guy's name, C.O. Fontenoy, that we used to say used to go after work. He'd go to the Blue Oyster, Blue Oyster, and drink sweaty balls or something. I forgot. We harassed this guy. We used to make reference that he was a homosexual. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's what we'd say, and then some. Hey, Fontenoy, you going to the Blue Oyster? I forgot what it was. Crazy stuff. Anyway, here comes Reed. I think this was this before, may have been before he'd been thrown feces in his face. Pops the light, looks and says, "You effing idiots." Right outside. We had the fan in front of our cell that night. Right outside in front was the cord and the electrical socket. Could that have shocked us and killed us? I don't know. We weren't thinking about electrocution. But as soon as they discovered what had happened and they count, what are you idiots doing? Oh, Jesus. He didn't turn around and walk back. They kept counting. So what did we do? Pulled. That's what happened. Right when Reed came up, I think White pulled the bag to try to get him wet. And then Fontenoy or one of the officers, whoever it was, pulled the electrical socket because all that water was coming, and sure enough, it would have got that suck. Like I said, would we've got electric? I don't know. Don't know a whole bunch about electricity. But it completely flooded the bottom of 63. There was that much water, especially the nearby stuff. And let me tell you, these guys, which we didn't care because they were PC cases, were so mad. And I would be mad if I was them too. And we had bros in cell Head, Weasel, TC, and Youngster. I think they were in cell 1, if not cell 2. They went to bed early that night because they were going to get up about midnight and then start cooking shine. They were on the floor on their mattresses, 2 of them. It was cooler on the floor, and got completely soaked. And yeah, I mean, I'm talking, there was so much water. At one point, like, we were contemplating whether we were going to jump off the top bunk and do cannonballs. We got hurt for sure. But that's how much water was in the cell. And that's another Building 63 story. It's what happened when guys in the SHU are bored and have nothing to do. Actually, you know, I was gonna say, COs, you shouldn't take all the personal property and everything away from guys when they're in the SHU, but actually we had everything, including all my legal work, including all kinds of property and hammocks and heavy beds, chairs that we made out of trays. So we had everything and then some. So I guess saying that you should let guys have more stuff might not be the right thing to say. Building 63, the great flood of Building 63. It's crazy.